Hey everyone,
Hi.
welcome to the No More show, where we say no more to toxicity in your life. I'm so excited. Today we have Rhapsody Rebecca on, and she just so happens to be one of the board members of our partnering foundation, Elsa. She leads a program called Story Connective. So go ahead, say hello.
Hey everybody, I'm happy to be here. I love NoMore, I love their products, I love trees. So exciting. Do they know that we're going to be planting trees? That NoMore is going to be planting trees?
Probably not,
Oh my
yeah.
gosh, that's a huge one.
For every bottle sold with the Runa Foundation and Alados. We're really super excited to announce
That's
that.
awesome because
Yeah.
that's such a solutionary story and like a solution to all of the things that are going on. And that's ultimately what Story Connective is about. We share inspiring stories of possibility, resilience, and cooperation. So that means that we want to share stories that then people want to share that can help people recognize what is possible. What can we do when we're facing all of this different stuff? And we focus on how to connect to local, how to connect to ourselves, how to connect to each other, and how to connect to the earth, how to connect to the planet and nature. Because in multiple ways, there's so many things that we can do, and there's so many inspiring things that people are doing. And every single person out there can be a part of those inspiring things and be a creator of an inspiring thing that connects us.
And story helps to give you that inspiration to connect to
I
it.
think so, yeah.
Definitely does. So we've been friends, for quite a few years now. And how we met is actually doing an event called Social Artistry Odyssey. A little bit before that, but really that's kind of the base of our friendship. And then she created this, her and her partner created Story Connective, which you guys can check out on our Elsa's website or at Podbean. She has some of the stories there, and they're just so well done. They actually spend a long time, not like this, making sure that they are really well done, and it is very inspirational. The last one was with children, so you got to check those out. So, of course, our base is saying no more to toxicity in your life and healthy living. And every time we interview someone, we ask them what their tips are and what they suggest, kind of things they do on a day-to-day that helps them to remove toxicity from their life. So our base today is Story Connective and how story can help you to live a healthier life. And there's really so much to the narrative of our own life. What are we telling ourselves? What are we repeating that doesn't serve us? And ways that story can change that. And another thing that she works a lot on is another one called Story Bridge. And that helps you to take your story from what you're repeating that doesn't really serve you and to retell it in the ways that it will serve you. So can you tell us a little more about that, or how you might have changed your life with story, or some of the stories that you've seen that has done that?
Wow. Yeah, that's powerful. Well, one way that I use story in my life that I learned from social artistry, well, let's just start there. Like with social artistry, one thing that's really powerful is that we really do talk about story. And then suddenly you're in a community where every person that's in this community, when they see you as your most optimal story, most empowered story. So when I see Sara, I see that which she is and like all the genius that she is, all of her creative potential. And then I see her working it out in the world, and then that just makes me want to celebrate it every time that it happens. And she does something that's amazing. And she's really good at that too. Whenever I do anything, whether I think it's great or not, she's always such a champion for me because we have that kind of relationship. We have that kind of commitment to each other and commitment to the community of creators that we're with, that we want to see and champion them being their most creative, effective, best selves. Exactly. And that's powerful. Like if you're with a bunch of people that when they see you, they just see the things that aren't working, that's going to affect the way that I relate to you.
Yeah.
And that's just one thing that you can do on a regular basis with anybody. And social artistry is a really great way to do that. Another thing that's
your community.
Yes.
Who the people you're around, and are they holding you down? What story are they telling
Absolutely.
you? And really look at that. Sigmund Freud has a quote that says, before you diagnose yourself with depression, fair warning, here comes a cuss word, make sure you're not, in fact, surrounded by assholes.
I was just reading that downstairs, saying how much I like that one.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah, and so that's a big one, the kinds of people that you're surrounding yourself around. And then there's also the story of what you say. Like, and I think Nate talks about this too. He did with me, where he was saying whenever he wants something, he just shares it with everybody. Like, oh, hey, I'm looking for this. Oh, hey, I'm looking for that. And when you say it out loud, it's more likely that people will want to help you. So something I started doing was saying, hey, I want to help people tell stories. And that was kind of uncomfortable. Like, oh, okay, am I a storyteller? Who gets to say that I'm a storyteller? I don't get like a piece of paper saying, congratulations, you're a storyteller. No, it's more just me saying, yes, I am a storyteller. Yes, that's a story I'm telling myself. Yes, that's a story I'm telling other people. And then showing up that way in the world.
Ooh.
Yeah. And
be who you want to be.
Yeah. Yeah. And so the more people that I say, oh, I do this type of story work, the more people go, oh, well, that's the story they associate with me. So Storybridge is my favorite kind of story work right now. And we've done a couple on Maui recently. We've done a couple in a couple different places. And what we do is you get a group of people together and everybody shares a story in a pair of two. So I would share a personal story with you. And then here's the real kicker. You would share that story back to me as if it happened to you in the first person. So, like, I was born in Hawaii. Sara was not. So her story might be like, oh, when I was a little girl growing up on the streets of Haiku in Maui. Even though that didn't happen to her, she'd be using the I pronoun to tell it to me. And what that does is that automatically hardwires us to really listen to each other, which is one of those foundational things, an inspiring story that needs to be shared, is that the more we listen to each other, the more peaceful we're going to be.
Ooh, so I want to interject there because I know you have tips on that.
Oh.
Some tips on authentically, really listening, deep listening. How does that look? Can you give some examples?
Well, this is a really good one for that, is when you're hearing somebody, can you repeat back to them what they said to you and like help them really feel seen and heard? And
so
that's
an
what
example,
this process helps people learn how to do too, which is good.
If I'm hearing you correctly, that would be maybe how you start that. And then affirm that it's about really authentically listening. Can you repeat back to them what you just heard?
Yeah.
Wow, does that shift a conversation, especially if you're in a heated one or a debate?
Oh my goodness.
Hearing just it back to you, just the validation. Doesn't mean you agree, but if I'm hearing you correctly, I hear you saying... I think it's Imago.
And it doesn't mean you agree. That's an important one. But so often the person that you're having that moment of conflict with, they just want to be heard. And so if I can say, or if you can say what it is that they're going through that they told you, and they know that you heard them, that already can do so much.
Yeah.
Before saying anything like you're wrong. No.
Can you
what
tell
I
me
heard
more?
You say is this. Can I hear you tell you more? Can I understand what you're trying to say? And from there, it's so much easier to figure out where the field of agreement is.
And just affirming that you heard it, like she said, can sometimes be all that's needed, and then the conversation's over. Okay, so back to Storybridge. So that's a part of just a real authentic listening and the practice that they do.
And when people tell that story back to me in the first person, oh my gosh, it's amazing what it can kind of do to rewire me, because it or any person who's doing it. I just happen to say me because that's also another way that I authentically communicate is to speak from I as much as possible. In this process, it could be anybody. So the person who's having their story told back to them, when that happens, there is this automatic like affirmation of, oh, my story matters. My story is valid. My story, someone hears it, somebody cares. Because also when you tell a story back to somebody in the first person, we can't help to have our hearts get into that too. Our hearts are hardwired for story. Our hearts are hardwired for empathy. And like there's a lot of walls that get put up to keep ourselves, I don't know, safe from being emotionally hurt in this world, because there's a lot of things that can do that. I mean, I think, I don't know, if you know anybody out there that doesn't have any emotional scars from social situations in their lives, I
send us our way.
Bravo, right? So it can be difficult, but when you do tell a story back, that feeling of connection just automatically happens. So that's really, really neat. And that's like the premise of Storybridge, is that part. And then through the process, some stories get shared multiple times. We have to make an agreement together. Oh, do we want to share my story? Do you want to share your story to a larger group of people? Which is also really great because to do anything in this world, to create anything in this world, you have to relate with people and you have to make decisions together that sometimes aren't difficult, that sometimes aren't the easiest to make. And so, yeah, we got babies crying in the background. That's life.
That's little Ryan Blue. Yeah. It's probably calling it out.
Yeah. And so we choose a story based on what it is that you and I most want the people out there to hear. And then ultimately we'll either share those stories to the larger world in a podcast, or we'll even turn them into theater and multiple people will embody them and perform them and celebrate those stories.
And I have seen some of the work that's come from that, and it's just heart-wrenching, mind-blowing. You can't believe some of the stories that people have gone through and then what they still accomplish. It's just astounding, and it's a really great reminder of really, what is the story that you're telling yourself? There's some ones of my past that I have told that have held me back so much. And within seconds recognizing that story. Uh-oh. Come here, Orion. We're just going to let him in here. Nancy, you can come in.
I think you might be hungry.
Yeah. So the story that I was telling myself for so many years, somebody had mentioned to me, my partner, about it being a story. And I I was so offended. And I went to the bathroom, and as I was peeing, I was like, that's a story. Everything else in my life, I believe that I can create. But when it came to this one thing, it was out of my control, and I was a victim, and I was forever going to be held down by it. Everybody just needed to accept it, even to die. And within the time to pee, that's all it took. I released and let go of that story. And since then, and it was being chronic fatigue. I was diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome when I was younger. And I would go around with, I have this tired stamp and I get to hold it and be tired. And that pee, that's all it took was a pee. And now I have more energy than everyone. So really, what are the stories you're telling yourself? I don't care who's diagnosed you with it. Especially in our system of labels and diagnosing, I really encourage you to step away from that and rewrite your story. And this is the story bridge. What is that story? Yeah. And coming over to the other side. How can you either share that or just relook at what it is that you have been repeating to yourself?
Yeah. I'm so glad you shared one of your personal stories of rewiring, because I see you as somebody who is a story alchemist in this way, in a lot of ways. The stories that you're telling yourself, the stories that you work through. And I mean, the chronic fatigue that you were diagnosed with, there was the immunodeficiency, right?
Yeah, autoimmune disorder is another one, yeah.
Yeah, autoimmune disorder. And instead of just being a victim and all of that, which you could have done, there is plenty of people around you that showed you that, like how to just be a victim and do the things. You chose something else, and you chose how to heal yourself and how to say no more to toxicity.
Yeah.
And then what did you do? You turned around and you said, I'm going to help everybody. I can be that way. And that is inspiring. And those are the types of stories that Story Connective likes to share.
Yeah.
Because all of us can do that.
Yes.
When we get in touch with our own selves and what's important to us, connecting to self. So here's a really easy tip for people if they want to try to figure out, how do I connect to myself? And this is something I get from Jean Houston in the social artistry world. You can make a list and ask yourself, like, what do I want from the universe? And just sit there and list all of it. Like, what do I want from the universe? Boom, 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 boom.
How does that
feel?
Let's
do one or two right now. Like, I want to feel content and happy in every moment. As many moments as possible.
Freedom. So mom of two, dogs of two companies. Time feels like this. So the sense of freedom.
Yeah. And then the next column that you'd make is, what does the universe want from me? That's always a rewire. And it kind of teaches me how to listen and be like, oh, what is that? And almost always I get like relaxation, like just take a chill pill is what the universe wants from me.
I feel that deep connection. Yeah, slowing down and watching where I'm going.
Yeah.
Getting back to that deep connection, because it's so easy to get busy. It's so easy to get detached too. And it isn't just about, you hear now people complain about social media, and I have a lot of positive because of social media.
Yeah.
It is just a daily practice, whether you lived 100 years ago or now, to stop, slow down, and look inward and deeply connect. Check in with yourself.
Yeah. And then the third one is, what do I and the universe desire together? And then creating that category.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So since we've given examples of the other ones, what's another one? Me and the universe both want to evoke people to be their best, their creative potential in the world.
Highest expression.
Mm-hmm.
Highest expression. Deep healing. I am here to help people heal themselves and feel empowered.
Yeah.
To do it on their own.
And this is a great one to really learn how to listen and listen. Okay, well, what are the choices? What are the stories? Because it's just you and a piece of paper. And so when you write them, it might even feel kind of strange at first, like, who am I to say this type of stuff or listen, or what do I know what the universe wants? But that's a story. And the more you practice it, the more you are able to like really actually feel and discern the difference. And then when you have that list of, this is what I and the universe want together, this is what I want, then it's a way to start kind of like creating a map to get there, and to live the story that feels most deeply connected and resonant to who you are.
You're setting the intention too, which I think is a very important thing. What is your intention? I asked somebody recently where they saw themselves when they were older, and they're like, what do you mean? I've never thought about it. And I was so mind blown. Like, you don't think about yourself in the future, like where you would be and what you're doing. And some of us don't. So setting the intention. Where are we going? What is that relationship look like with you and your highest self? And are you heading in that way? And it just really, I really want to repeat that, are you in victim or responsible? So when you do this, you're in responsible. You're looking at, this is where we're going. This is where I want to go. And there is hurdles for everyone. No one is exempt from that.
Makes us stronger.
Yeah. Absolutely. Gives us a story.
That's part of the story. Like, you wouldn't go and see a movie out there or watch a TV show where the protagonist, the main character of the story, didn't have to face obstacles and challenges and adventures. That's just not how stories are. And it's through those obstacles and challenges that we obtain the skills and obtain the connections that then allow us to be more masterful of ourselves and of others. And let me change that language. I think that wasn't it. I get that because I was using Joseph Campbell's like story map, which is a whole other category, but ultimately become the master of two worlds. So let me backtrack a little bit. Like, when you face those obstacles and you face those challenges and go on those trials and adventures, you gain skills, you gain tools, you gain relationships that help you be that which you seek to be.
Ooh.
Yeah.
And you're always practicing something.
Oh gosh, yes.
So be mindful of what you're practicing. Fake it till you make it was a quote that my dad used to say to me growing up. And it has got me where I am now. I just kept practicing and watching and learning and asking myself about those stories. I was to be disabled at 17. I am not. I am healthier and happier than 90% of the people I have around me.
That's
just out doing
inspiring.
it. Yeah. So you can change your story. Write it on.
Yeah.
Well, I'm really excited that you've come on. And so thankful to touch base with you. What is the name? Can you tell everybody what the name of your project is right now?
The name of the project is The Story Connective, and we've got a variety of podcasts and YouTube videos where we really go out and tell people stories that connect to the heart, stories that connect people to themselves, like show you what does that actually look like, stories where people are connecting to each other, which sometimes happens in the process of how we tell the stories, like in Story Bridge, or like the podcast we just released was about using arts in schools that then creates this whole culture within the school where people feel connected to each other and know how to cooperate and collaborate with each other creatively. And then we also tell a lot of stories that connect people to the planet, connect people to nature.
Oh, isn't that needed?
Yes, exactly. Because that's one of my biggest foundations is when I need a boost, I'm like, what is going on? Like, I know I can go outside to a tree or to the ground or whatever it is and just breathe and feel that connection. And that strengthens me and fortitudes me and helps me continue to be that which I seek in the world. And that's such a great gift. I mean, nature is so inspiring in so many different ways, and we want to be part of telling the story that we are a part of nature not that we are above nature, that we're separate from nature. So all of our stories tend to have that type of thing, that thread too.
Whoa, we're back.
We are back. So
it just went black on us. I don't know if you could see us, but we couldn't see you.
Yeah.
There's actually a study that was done recently where they put a park in one of the cities with high crime, and there was an 80% reduction from the trees. And your immune system will boost for 30 days just by going for a hike or a walk with trees.
I believe it. In Japan, they do something called forest bathing, which, again, they've done studies to see how it helps people relax and release anxiety, release depression, where people will go out into the woods and bathe in the forest. Meaning they won't say anything, they won't do anything, they'll just be and just take it all in, all the sensory information for about 10-15 minutes, and that's taking a forest bath. And oh my goodness, that is a mood changer. I've done it. Mood changer.
Great tips.
Yeah.
Great suggestions. So this is Rebecca Rhapsody again. You got to follow what she's doing. I'm telling you, the podcast will just keep you on the edge. You want to listen.
Yeah.
They do have a few different places that you can find it. So if Podbean doesn't work for you, like she said, iTunes.
You can find it at any place that you look for your podcast. So we're on Apple Podcasts, which most iPhones already have. If you just look at the apps on your phone, you'll see one that says podcasts. It's purple. And if you click on that and you look up The Story Connective, you'll find all of our podcasts. Same thing with Stitcher, same thing with Google Play, same thing with Podbean. There's a few others out there. Just take a look. Look for The Story Connective.
Yay! Well, thank you so much for coming on. Any last words? Any?
Just one more thing about the podcast. Like, one of the stories or the motivations behind it is that we are living in really challenging times, and there's a lot of things that can get us down in terms of like what's going wrong, what's not working, and we're kind of bombarded with those messages all the time. And when the more that I learned about it and the more that I wanted to do something, I got overwhelmed. Like, okay, well, what can I do? So the Story Connective is trying to break that down into more bite-sized chunks and show people like, okay, actually, not just theory, but in practice, this is what people are doing in a community near you that is making the world a better place. One person, one being, one piece of land at a time. It
all matters. Every single little thing that you do matters. Because really, that's what we are. We're collective. So if all of us were doing just one simple little thing, then collectively, it'd be one giant, huge thing. So your little things do matter. Thank you so much for coming on. I love you.
I love you too.
Soul sisters. Yes. All right. You guys will see her again soon. Thank you, as always, for coming on.
Aloha.
Bye.
Bye.